Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of our brand new show, Open Mic Wrasslin. Today I am here with a very passionate and well-known wrestling fan all the way from Mumbai, India. His name is Godfrey, aka Gotti. He is an engineering student. He's only 20 years old. He's doing his computer engineering, and he's a big fan of wrestling. He's a great admirer of wrestling, and he's been watching for over 13 years. And there's one superstar who is responsible for his love of wrestling, and that guy is none other than John Cena. And to tell the rest of the story, I'm going to introduce to you Mr. Godfrey, aka Gotti. Gotti, how are you doing, man?
I'm great, AJ. It's a pleasure to be talking with you today.
Oh, yeah, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for your time. So, Gotti, why don't you tell us why John Cena? What is it about John Cena that you love so much?
So, I started watching wrestling in WWE in particular back in 2008. And I remember when I put on the television and I saw John Cena over there. And man, just looking at John Cena, he's a figure in wrestling which automatically captivates you. And I guess that's enough for any wrestling fan, not even a wrestling fan, any person to fall in love with wrestling. So I guess that was the time when, I became a wrestling fan. And definitely over the years, I've had so many other favorites as well. And speaking about John Cena, I guess his recent return at Money in the Bank, that itself is enough to say and speak about the legacy of the man.
Definitely. John Cena is a one of a kind. There will be nobody. There will be people who will be good, but nobody will be the next John Cena. That's for sure. So you said that John Cena got you into WWE. Do you still watch just WWE, or do you also consume other wrestling products?
I'm a total wrestling fan. I watch the other products, AEW, New Japan sometimes, Impact as well now and then. So I catch up with all stuff related to wrestling, basically.
Okay, all right, that's good to hear. Well, you just brought up AEW, and it's also related to our topic for the day. And the topic of the day is none other than the very controversial, the highly liked, and the highly disliked CM Punk. What do you think? What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of CM Punk?
A killer on the mic.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
Killer on the mic. And if you look at the entire wrestling history, I'm not just talking about a particular company here. If you look at the entire wrestling history and you want to name the top promo cutters ever, CM Punk's name definitely has to be on your top 5 list, at least for me, and for majority of the fans as well. But at least for me, I mean, the pipe bomb promo. I mean, one of the best ever wrestling promos to be cut.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, like that.
I totally agree. But for me, when I hear the name CM Punk, the first thing that comes to my mind is the guy who blocked Wrasslinews on Instagram, blocked them on Twitter, blocked them on Facebook. So whenever I post something about CM Punk, I cannot tag him. He's blocked me everywhere. But okay, so I assume that you are a CM Punk fan.
Not much, actually. I mean, back in the day when he was a part of WWE, I used to hate him. I mean, look, he's talented. I'll give you that. He's talented. He's an amazing in-ring wrestler. He's good on the mic, as I've just said. But I was not kind of a fan of him. If you look at the rivalries he had an intense rivalry with John Cena. I was a John Cena fan. I was on Cena's side. With Daniel Bryan, I was on Daniel Bryan's side. And likewise, even with Chris Jericho, I was on Jericho's side. But I'll have to say he is one gem of the wrestling industry, and no one can take that away from him.
I respect that. What about his UFC run? So when he announced that he's joining the UFC, did you support his decision, or were you critical of it?
I was a bit critical of it because, ultimately WWE and wrestling was the thing what I was more of a fan. UFC is like something which I also watch, but
Right.
not as much as WWE.
Yeah.
So I wanted him to be with WWE itself for a longer time. But yeah, I mean, it's his life, it's his decision. At the end, what he feels comfortable doing, it's his choice.
That's amazing. That's what every fan should be like, It's their life. They decide what to do with it. We can only, think we can only judge it, but we can't hate them or criticize them for it. I respect that. So you mentioned the pipe bomb and how great of a, promo cutter CM Punk is. So I would like to ask you, were you a CM Punk fan before the pipe bomb?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I respect.
I've become a bit of a CM Punk fan, and I mean, in today, the month of July 2021, CM Punk is among the topmost wrestling topics all over the world. So, I mean, the excitement, the name itself, CM Punk has created so much excitement. It forces everyone to be a wrestling fan and a fan of CM Punk. So, I guess I may be shifting a bit towards becoming a CM Punk fan soon, but back then I definitely wasn't.
Okay, good. And it really, I mean, this whole pipe bomb thing. I mean, I used to watch wrestling back then too, obviously. Pipe bomb was good, but I wasn't hooked. I mean, I was like, okay, so he got on there, they gave him the mic, they allowed him to speak his mind, but I wasn't hooked. But what I really felt, I mean, CM Punk is the internet's darling, right? The dirt sheets, they love CM Punk. Yeah, I mean, the people of IGWC, of IWC, they love CM Punk. But I'll tell you something, that there is this narrative that was played by the media that really made us fall in love with Punk. I'll show you something. I'll pull something up to show you how media played a very big role in for us to love CM Punk. Just hold on one second. Okay. Let's see. All right. So this is one article from Bleacher Report, and it is from 2009, April 9, 2009. This is when CM Punk won his second Money in the Bank match. And it says CM Punk's second Money in the Bank match, RIP. Another report from Bleacher Report. This is from a month later, May 16, 2009. This is for the Judgment Day pay-per-view, right? It's kind of a prediction article.
Yeah.
What does it say here? I'm going to pull that up right now. It calls it, Bleacher Report here calls CM Punk boring, and they call him crappy match Punk. They don't call him CM Punk. They don't call him Chick Magnet Punk. It's called crappy match Punk. So it shows kind of a narrative that media plays. Right? This is 2009. And now I'd like to draw your attention to an article from 2011. Here it says a few reasons he is better than the entire roster. Why his reign is the most important. So, I mean, I just want to, bring people's attention to this thing is that media plays a big role into who we like and who we dislike. For example, I run Wrasslinews. I mean, sometimes I feel like my post, they hold so much importance, not for, fans who are aware of wrestling and, who consume news from many websites, but there are people who are casual fans and who don't really consume, news from many sites. They just have wrestling news. And I feel like I hold this responsibility to try to be as unbiased as I can. And I'll give you another example. I posted something about, I don't know if I should name her, but I will name her, Brandy Rhodes. I posted about Brandy Rhodes, and this was a true story. And I was threatened to take that story down by a few people. And I did not, because it was not a false story. I will not take anything down. I mean, if something happened, it happened, right? And then later on, there was a positive story about Brandy Rhodes, which, I was a little in posting. And then she texted me up front that, why didn't you post a story? I posted that story too later on. But this is what I'm saying. Media has this power to really change people's narrative. And, CM Punk, might be overrated, might be underrated, I don't know, but I feel like media played a big part in him being as beloved as he is in the internet wrestling community. You know, just like you said, I mean, CM Punk's reign. I mean, what do you think about his reign, by the way, his championship reign, the 434-day reign? Were you a fan of that reign?
Um, as I will say again, the reign, he may have had the longest reign, but I wasn't much of a fan. Whenever he would have to defend his title, I would hope that somebody would dethrone him over there. But it is what it is. I mean, it's already in the record books now, so that cannot be erased. No matter what, they can get maybe Brock Lesnar, maybe Roman Reigns to break that record, but still, it will be among the top longest reigns, one of the top longest reigns.
Definitely.
So I personally wasn't, to be honest, but yeah, as I'm saying, it is what it is.
I like how we think alike, and also the ratings, the television ratings also, agree with us because the ratings during his reign were some of the lowest that we've seen during a championship reign. And The Rock also said that The Rock had to return because Punk can never generate as much revenue as The Rock can. So definitely the ratings also agreed with us there. We are not CM Punk haters. We are just realists, right? I mean, it is what it is. What were your thoughts on CM Punk walking out of the company in 2014, just months before WrestleMania 30? What did you think of that?
See, when I mean, look, if you look at this from WWE's point of view, look, they are when they have their WrestleMania, they plan what matches are going to be on the card, what kind of shows they're going to put up, who's going to be the champion, heading into WrestleMania, who's going to leave WrestleMania as the champion. They plan it months prior, maybe even a year prior. So CM Punk walking out like that unexpectedly was, from a WWE fans point of view, I really felt bad that they'll have to maybe change the entire thing, maybe get in some new superstars, maybe some old superstars, bring them back. But I wouldn't say egoistic, but I guess that's kind of a word which I would say that the decision what he made, because he was pretty much over with the fans back then too.
He was. He was.
But he chose that path, and yeah, I mean, as I said, it's finally his call. But as a fan, I would have wanted him to stay with WWE a bit more, do something more, and but it is what it is. I guess that's the only thing what we can say, right?
I agree. It reminds me of Chris Jericho. In his book, No is a four-letter word. He said that at WrestleMania 29, Vince McMahon made this decision of putting Fandango over Chris Jericho. And Chris Jericho was pretty mad then. But The Undertaker called him up. And he said that do what the boss says, right? Just do what he says. And Chris Jericho did it. Right. And everything was fine. I mean, Chris was fine in the company. Even now, when he's in AEW, he's still respected by people in the company. But if you talk about CM Punk, he damaged his own, reputation. I mean, I felt that his walkout was pretty much an insult to the fans, not just to the business, but to the fans. I agree with you.
Yeah, that's exactly my point.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But during his trial with Dr. Chris Amann, it got pretty emotional. CM Punk was brought to tears during the trial. He ended up winning the trial as well. But Dr. Chris Amann and the WWE Vice President of Talent Relation, Mark Carano, called him an aggravated superstar. I mean, even though Punk won the trial, who do you think was the real winner? Was it Punk or was it WWE?
I would still say WWE because at the end of the day, yeah, Punk made his decision to go on his own path. The trial thing and all was brought up. But at the end, WWE wasn't losing anything. To be honest, they have so much of talent. One talent went away, no doubt, but
yeah,
they have a lot of talent. Then, so I wouldn't say CM Punk may have won it over there, but WWE had nothing to lose. To be honest. So the ultimate winner, I would say yes, definitely WWE.
I agree. And I was speaking to JTG just yesterday, and I asked him this. I asked him that, hey, WWE released Braun Strowman. They've got to let go a lot of superstars who were, pretty much in big matches at WrestleMania 37 as well. I mean, they just let go of them all of a sudden. So do you think that the company is being sold? JTG said that he hopes not. But what do you think? After all these recent releases, do you think they're planning to sell the company?
Basically, I mean, look, I'm just saying this on the basis of the various articles which I've read all over Twitter and all over social media. Some of them say that maybe Vince is trying to sell the company off to someone, but I guess this is all due to budget cuts. Because since the past year or so, there's been an economical impact on almost every sector in the world.
Yeah.
And WWE is no stranger to that. So maybe, and if you talk about Strowman in particular, he was being given a really huge contract. I mean, in 2018, when he had the Money in the Bank, he was like one of the most over guys in the company. But after that, it kind of went on a downward spiral.
Yeah.
So I guess that time, looking at his success back then, they might have offered him such a huge contract. But they soon realized that the fans aren't, liking what they are doing on screen with Braun Strowman. So maybe they cut him off his contract. I'm hoping, and there are rumors recently since the past few days that WWE may be looking forward to sign Strowman back. So I guess it's all just due to budget cuts. I don't think they're going to sell the company away.
Gotti, like every time I have a guest on the show, I'm talking to somebody. I remember Sir Wilkins from the Jobber Tears podcast, spoke to him a lot of time. And usually it's a back and forth. I'm like, no, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. But, talking to you is like I'm talking to myself. I mean, you're speaking my mind. Everything that I think you're saying, and we agree on every point, and that's beautiful. I love having this conversation.
All I can say is great minds think alike.
Oh yeah, great minds do think alike. I agree with you. So I want to ask you another thing. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the same answers I'm thinking right now. But what do you think of CM Punk's decision to join WWE backstage? Do you think it was a failure, or was it a smart business decision?
From a business standpoint, I guess it was pretty good, because the fans, the die-hard CM Punk fans, all over the internet, they were like totally excited. Like they were like, wow, CM Punk back on WWE television. I mean, this is something huge.
Yeah.
And that even started the rumors about him making an in-ring return pretty soon. So, but yeah, I mean, as a wrestling fan without any bias, I would say it was good to see him back on WWE television. Nothing so special, but it was pretty good, and after that they even cut off the show. So whatever time it lasted, I mean, it was pretty good, I would say.
Did you watch that show every week?
Not exactly every week. I just maybe go through highlights or just skip the thing just to get on the main points. I mean, look, when you're on Twitter, you already see people tweeting about different stuff. So there itself, you get an idea about what's going on the show. So like it was pretty much that. I never watched a single episode totally, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think I kept up with whatever content was going out there on backstage.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I felt like it was basically talking smack, but a bit longer and a bit overhyped. I wasn't a big fan of that show, and even when CM Punk came on, I didn't tune into any of the episodes. Honestly, I honestly felt that he kind of ruined it because it became obvious that, hey, CM Punk does not hate wrestling anymore, as he claimed earlier that he did. So it kind of like made it obvious. But I felt like, he should have just, returned for a wrestling gig or something. That was like, I wasn't a fan. I'm not a Renee Young fan either, honestly. I liked her work, but I'm not a fan of her now because I feel like as a journalist, or she was in a kind of a journalist role. I feel like when you're a journalist, you should be try to be as unbiased and unopinionated as possible, and stop influencing people into thinking some way. And I feel like Renee Young, with the fan following that she can influence a lot of people, and she has influenced a lot of people into liking or disliking something. And that's what I didn't like about her.
Speaking about Renee Young, a recent tweet about hers, she put something that AEW treats their fans better than WWE treats their fans. I mean, that has really spread all over the internet, and there are many people who are debating on it. So as you said, right, she can influence a lot of people.
And yeah, not a fan of her recent actions, just like that very tweet. Not a fan of that, not at all. So let's get to the hot topic of the day that everybody wants to know the answer to. Will CM Punk go to AEW? Will he be All Elite?
I mean, last night on Dynamite, Darby Allin cut such an amazing promo, and AEW have clearly made it out that you got to buy your tickets to come and watch our pay-per-view if you want to witness CM Punk returning. That's what they've done. But if you look at AEW's history so far in these past few years, they've never made any return or any debut so obvious.
True.
And I guess that's what makes them stand out apart from WWE. Whereas if you look at WWE, they tease their returns pretty much now and then. AEW haven't done it. So this time, because they are doing so much for CM Punk and making it so obvious, I hope, and I'm having slight of feeling that it's going to be all the swerve and CM Punk maybe shows up on Raw or something. But I feel it's going to be, CM Punk is going to be All Elite, but I'm still hoping that down in the bottom of my heart that maybe come back on Raw and, maybe stun the entire wrestling world.
I love that, man. Again, very similar thoughts. And about what you said, that WWE teases its returns or announces its returns in advance, I feel like there's a reason behind it. And the reason is that WWE is so mainstream, It's not just watched by wrestling fans, but it's watched by even more casual fans and fans of, let's say, a particular superstar or Hollywood star, whatever. And that is why the people who watch WWE don't tune in every week. Many of them don't tune in at all. They just keep up with the news. And they tune in when they come to know John Cena is returning on July 17 or The Rock's coming back. That's why they have to put the announcements out. AEW, on the other hand, it is not watched by casual fans. It's not mainstream. People don't know who Darby Allin is. People don't know who Orange Cassidy is. So they can keep their returns a surprise because they can afford to do it. If WWE is putting in $1 billion to have a person return and they don't get ratings because nobody knew about it, it's going to be a loss. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's one reason. Yeah. But people feel...
Speaking about that, AEW, what they are doing now is, even Tony Khan knows that, there are all these rumors about CM Punk alongside Daniel Bryan debuting on AEW. So even he's trying to make the most of the situation, try to create that kind of suspense and excitement among the wrestling fans. So
I agree.
As I said, I still feel CM Punk might show up on Raw someday.
I definitely agree with you. And, I want to bring your attention and our viewers' attention to another very interesting chart that I have here. So here we can see, it's Wikipedia. It says that on December 2nd, Sting made his All Elite Wrestling debut, correct? Now I'm going to turn your attention to the ratings of 2020. Okay, let's start from 18th November, right? 0.37. Then 25th November, they had a big drop here. Then 2nd December, when Sting made his debut, a big up, right? The ratings really skyrocketed. If you look at all these weeks, this is huge. Sting is here.
Right.
The rating's still up. The next week, the rating's still up. and look at it go down. Look at it go down. Look at this. Third week. Nobody cares anymore. Look at this big drop. Oh my God. Fifth week. Even a bigger drop. Look at all these ratings changing. Look at this. So what I'm trying to say is that they can bring back a lot of ex-WWE superstars, but at the end of the day, it's still AEW and the product is still elite. It's not WWE. When a former WWE superstar comes back, a lot of WWE fans tune in to see their favorites, but when they see the whole product, they're just not impressed by it, and that's why the ratings drop. So do I feel like if CM Punk comes back, the ratings will change? Maybe for a month. This time I'll say a month, not a week or 2 weeks. It'll go down. It's a prediction for me. I'm going to predict this. It's going to go down. I don't think that it's going to stay up.
I'll totally agree with you over there, AJ. Look, CM Punk, whenever he makes his debut, be it on WWE, be it on AEW Dynamite or wherever, it's going to be a huge pop. There's going to be a huge pop for him. And the episode following that will definitely have an increased viewership. But I guess that's it. Then, it will take a huge upway and then it will slowly decline. Because at the end of the day, as you said, you elaborated everything pretty well, I would say. The casual fans will watch the product only to see their favorite superstars, but they may dislike the remaining products. So I guess, that's going to happen with CM Punk as well, in my opinion.
It's kind of sad to say, but this is what the history has showed us so far. It is what it is. It's truth.
Right.
I spoke to JTG just to express. I'm sorry, Gadi, can't hear you. Can you please come again?
As you said, the history has shown it, and CM Punk's return might not be different as well. It will be on a similar terms.
Definitely. And I was speaking to JTG, as I mentioned earlier. I asked him the same question about Punk's and Daniel Bryan's entry to AEW. And JTG said that he hopes that they debut on AEW and they stay there because he doesn't want any one company to have a monopoly in the industry, which I agree. Monopoly is never a good thing. I mean, since AEW is around, the WWE product has just gotten better. So I agree, there should not be a monopoly, but is AEW really going to change everything and just, defeat WWE in its ratings? No, I don't think so.
Never. As you said, monopoly shouldn't be there. And one thing, which I would like to say, like Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, when these two guys will join AEW and they'll officially make the ship jump, I guess that will even force WWE creatives to, produce some better content, some edgier content.
Yeah.
And that is pretty much, visible. I mean, if you look at the past 2-3 weeks, WWE have shown a bit edgier content. Talk about Roman Reigns promo on SmackDown.
Yeah, definitely.
So maybe that has kind of ignited a kind of spark backstage in WWE, and that is good. I mean, the wrestling fans are just going to win. They're going to get better products on Mondays, on Tuesdays, on Wednesdays, on Fridays as well, and on pay-per-views as well. So I think wrestling fans are the ultimate winners over here, and that's pretty good for every one of us, honestly.
I love that, Gadi. I mean, I expected this episode to be explosive back and forth and whatnot, but I'm so glad to see that, Gadi is not an internet mark. He is a wrestling genius and he knows his product. You are an amazing fan, Gadi, and a lot of fans should take inspiration from you and start respecting the product the same way that you do. It's incredible. Before we go off, Gadi, I would just like to ask you to rate CM Punk on a scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate him? 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest.
Overall, I will rate him at 8.5.
Wow. That's very... Actually, that's a good rating for him. I agree. I'll rate him the same, actually, definitely, because he deserves the appreciation, but he also deserves some criticism. Amazing. I love that. Great. Gotti, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a very nice and a very fruitful conversation. Great talking to you. Before we go off, would you please like to let our fans know about your social media handles so they can, go on your social medias and get to know about your own work, which is your artwork. You do amazing artwork of wrestling, wrestlers, wrestling celebrities. Can you tell us about that?
First of all, thank you so much. I mean, this appreciation coming from someone like you really means a lot to me. For all the viewers out there, my Instagram ID is underscore Goddy, GODYYY, that's a triple Y, .21 underscore. So basically, if you search that on Instagram, you're going to see some artworks which I feel I've done my best. I don't know what others feel about it. They are free to have their own opinions, but there are artworks of wrestling. As I said, I'm more of a WWE fan, so there are more WWE fan arts, but there are a few AEW fan arts here and there as well. Most of the fan arts have been noticed by the superstars themselves. If you look at the most recent one, there's a Nikki Cross one, which is, you'll find it even on her page. So I hope you like my fan arts when you search my name, and hoping to interact with more and more wrestling fans doing this show right now.
Definitely. So all our viewers, you should definitely go to Gotti's Instagram, look up his artwork. It's really one of a kind. It's great. Thank you so much, Gotti. Absolute pleasure talking to you. And we hope to have you back on the show and talk more wrestling. Thank you so much.